Hey guys, Andrew here. We're into this week's weekly webinar. This week we're discussing the important point of boosting your revenue, and we're going to share with you today what we believe are the four key strategies that you need to implement to get those revenues up to where you want them to be and beyond. So as I say, it's myself, Andrew, and again, as always, I've got Nikki on the call as well. So do you want to say a few words, Nikki?
Hey, it's great to be on this call. It's great to talk about increasing revenue, because revenue is like blood of a business. And as you know, if you can increase blood, if you increase hemoglobin, then your athlete's going to perform better. And it's the same with cash flow in your business. The more revenue you have, it opens up much larger opportunities for you to grow to the business you guys dream of. So hopefully over the next 60 minutes, we can teach you and show you four different ways that you can implement some of these strategies into your business to increase cash flow.
Awesome. So what we're going to cover today on the call are the four strategies, as I said. First off, we're going to look at how to increase your revenue with more new client sales. Then we're going to look at how to increase your average sale per client, followed up by how to increase the frequency of client purchases. And then finally, we'll look at the one that strikes fear into everyone, is raising your rates, raising your prices. So starting off, as I say, first one is we're looking to increase revenue with more new client sales. As it says on the slide here, that of the four, this is generally the one that most businesses focus on. And if we think about it, there's two ways that you can increase new customer sales. The first of them is to sell your services to more people. That's going to come from your marketing, generating more leads to sit down in front of you in the consultation process. The second one is to convert more of those leads. And I've got an example which I'll go through on that to really highlight why that's so important. Do you want to just expand upon those sort of things, Nikki?
Yeah, sure. So conversion is a place where a lot of business owners do struggle, because they haven't learned how to sell, or they have a lot of fear about selling, and they don't really nurture the list as much as they think they do. And we see this a lot, right? And you don't. I mean, when you're reaching out to your list, you're not pestering them, and that's something that I struggled with when I went from being an individual trainer to trying to grow a business. I was a bit worried about how many emails I would send people or phone calls I would make to people in case they thought I was pestering them, right? But actually, if you feed them good information, they love it, and the goal is to keep in front of them as much as possible, and just make an offer, just make the offer. If you make offers, someone will likely buy a service, or you're able to book a consult where then you can then sell. But it has to be constant. If I ask the question to you right now, when was the last time you reached out to your list? Okay, or when was the last time you reached out to your database with the intention of trying to convert them from being a lead into a client? Have a think about that for a little while. Okay, because if you're not doing that on a weekly or even a daily basis, then the chances of you converting anyone from your list to a client is almost impossible, right? You've got to be in touch with these guys all the time, because as Andrew, right, sometimes you have to work a lead for 3, 6, 9, 12 months before they become a client, and it's constant kind of contact with these leads before they even think about coming to a consult, right? And it's not because they don't want the services; they have to trust you before they're ready to kind of sit with you in a consult or try the services, right?
Yeah, for sure. You've hit the nail on the head there, Nikki, with the word trust. And we've both got examples from when we were in, with our PT business. It's similar now with the business coaching side of things, is that yeah, some people are ready to commence working with you almost right out the gate if there's if the desire is big enough. But more often than not, there's a lag time between that first connection and when they or if and when they finally become a client. And one of the most, I guess, famous examples that I've got, it was an 18-month period before this lady came on board. She just wasn't ready when we first connected, but adding her to my list, giving her some initial support that she could take away and utilize herself, and then the weekly emails that would be sent to her got her some initial success, and ultimately enabled me to build that trust with her, position myself as the expert in the local area that she was comfortable then to come on board. And I think that where a lot of us drop the ball now, we get, I guess, bright shiny objects come into the mix, and Facebook isn't a perfect example of that. As a tool, yes, it's a fantastic tool for us to use and to engage with people. Facebook ads came into the mix, and now everybody gets sucked into, I've got to do Facebook ads, and they start hitting people right out the gate with an offer, and it goes against the grain of what we've been brought up with, and we forget the key things are that ultimately what we're looking to do with the likes of Facebook or any other tool like that is to get those people back onto your list so you can still start building rapport with them, start building that relationship, and make the sale through your email list as opposed directly on the likes of Facebook or whatever on that side.
Yeah, there's some really key principles to converting a lead into a client, and as me and Andrew just both mentioned, trust is a key thing, right? If you're in contact with your list on a constant basis, then the chances are you've got a much higher chance of converting. Think about it like this, right? If you're watching this webinar or doing this workshop with us right now, you're a client of ours or a member. How did you get here? You know, how much contact did we have to have with you before you trusted us enough to actually purchase our services? Because that's exactly how your client or your prospect is thinking, just like you were when you purchased a service from us. Now, if you are a member or a client that are at the higher end of our scale, paying us a lot more money for our services, then you will probably had more touches or were on a lower service first before you got there, right? And it was the trust with our company that kind of allowed you to purchase the higher level of service, right? The same is true with your list. If you're selling like a £99 a month bootcamp, you probably don't need as much contact as if you're selling £1,000 a month personal training program, right? So how much contact you have with your clients and how you do it, or your prospects, to convert them will really depend on what type of service you and what price point you're selling.
Fantastic. So bringing it back around to the 2 points here, guys, sell your services to more people. How do we do that? Well, let me use some simple maths here for me more than you, to keep it simple. Let's say that I had 10 people attend a consultation and 4 of them became a client. Then I know that 40% of those people converted. So that leaves me with 60% that didn't. Now, that's an important number, more so into converting more leads, which I'll come to in a second. But let's say we had those 4 that became a client. Well, if I doubled that, I suddenly have 8 people becoming more clients than previously. So, I've sold to more people. Where a lot of people drop the ball is understanding their conversion rates. And the question here is, do you know your sales conversion rate? That's a point to ponder. Hopefully you do. If you don't, then I wholeheartedly recommend that you look at working that rate out, because it's going to be key, as I'm going to show you in a second. But converting more leads let's say that, as I say, you've worked out that your conversion rate is 40%. So that means that for every 10 people come in, you're gonna get 4 clients. Well, we can, through an education process, we can help you improve that into generating more revenues from that. If you increase it to 60%, you're getting an extra 2 clients per month then, which it can be significant.
So kind of a few ways to increase your conversion. Obviously, as Andrew was saying, you've got to know your numbers first, right? If you don't know what your close rate or conversion rate is at the moment, there's nothing to measure against, right? So it's a simple formula, as Andrew just mentioned there, is always know what your conversion rate is, right? But just a few ideas to improve your conversion rate. The first thing is have a sales system, okay? The more repetitive your sales system is, the better it is for you to kind of understand it and measure it. If you do sales differently every time, or every time a person comes into a consult, or how they booked into a consult, or what you say in the consult, then fix that first. Okay. Next is to always show like testimonials, previous examples of stories of your results. Nothing sells more than actual testimonials from or work that you've done before. Other ways to increase your conversion rate. Obviously, we talked about staying in contact with your list at all times. And one of the things that worked for me was a money back guarantee. Now, I was really scared when I first did my money back guarantee, right? Because I thought, what happens if everyone asks for their money back at the same time? But then, like, I thought to myself, no one's actually asked for their money back ever. So why would it happen, right? But it took the risk away. So it's called kind of a risk reversal, right? So in the consult, I'd say, look, if you don't get the results and you followed our program for a period of time, we will give you a full refund, right? And there was some things they had to stick to, like follow the nutrition, make sure they turned up to all the exercise sessions, and so on and so on. But it helped me improve my conversion rate, and actually no one asked for their money back. If you don't do that already, that's a good way to increase your conversion rate.
Absolutely. And moving on to that, because it's such an important concept that we want you to fully understand, I want to display that in by way of an example. And I was nodding my head there, Nikki, when you were talking about having a sales system in place, because I remember back in the early days that I didn't, and each consultation I did was completely different. And then I realized that, hang on, if you have a system in place, then you're going to get a much better success from it. So I was smiling and nodding when you were mentioning that.
Yeah, it's so important, man. The sales system is probably the most important system in your business. And I guess, like, if you're a trainer, you'll have a training system, right? The way you deliver your workout, it's so much easier when you know what you're doing, rather than have to make up every single workout as you go along, right? I mean, I did that right at the start of my career as well, but it doesn't last. You can't scale up with that. And we always look at McDonald's as the best business to model systems on. Even, I mean, we look at McDonald's, think about the system of staff. They have such a high staff turnover, but yet they still manage it because it's already programmed into their system, right? It's almost like as soon as they hit a certain age, they leave anyway. So they know that, and they've got their training system, hiring system in place to just keep regenerating and keep churning out the staff. It's the same with sales, exactly the same thing.
It is. And that reminds me, you've mentioned that I need to watch Founder, the film about McDonald's, Ray Kroc, so I must make a point of doing that.
Great movie to watch if you want to learn about systems.
Awesome. Right. So yeah, this example, guys, on conversion rates I've got here is a live example that I had with a client who's based in Australia. We were going through a coaching call where they were saying, "Hey, I need to increase my revenues. I need to generate more clients. Can you help me? What additional marketing can we do?" And I always like to take a step back and just see the bigger picture. So, and generally in this case, it's, as I say, the importance of knowing your numbers, or here, the importance of using your key metrics. So I wanted to look at where the holes in the bucket were. Was this really a marketing problem? And I've got the numbers to show you on the next slide, so we can take you through that to highlight the importance of knowing that conversion rate. So these are true numbers. Ignore the dollar sign. That doesn't matter. It's the numbers that are key here. So this client has a yoga studio, and their average ticket sale each month is $956 per client. This particular month in question, where they were pulling the hair out, they'd generated 12 prospects, 12 leads who were booked in for consults. The consults were performed, and they had a close rate of 66%, which meant they generated 8 new clients for a new client revenue of $7,859, which is pretty good. But they, because of their expenses, because of particularly the rent was quite high, these numbers weren't high enough for them, and they were panicking. But it was clear to me, looking at the numbers in front of us now, that there was a significant hole in the bucket. And I wondered if you can see from that what that might be based upon what we've already discussed. Basically, it's that close rate of 66%. You know, it's okay, but there's a lot between that and 100%. So there's significant work that we could look to do there, and we highlighted that with the client in question. We explained that it wasn't a marketing problem; it was in fact a sales problem. There was issue with their sales system. This allowed us to look and work with them and with their small team to look to fix the processes, their sales system, and it highlighted the fact when we did the review that their team or her team was not skilled enough in a number of areas. They followed a process where they had a pre-qualification script. There was an onboarding process, and then there was consultation, and there was little bits going awry. For example, the script wasn't always being followed. The person sounded nervous on the phone when they were talking to the prospect because they weren't comfortable with it, or they were scrambling around to actually find a copy of the script. When prospects came in through the door, there was no defined way of approaching that person. So that person was a little lost when they first entered the studio because there was no defined front desk reception point. And they would be left stood at the door because no one came to them. So we addressed all of these sorts of issues. And ultimately, we focused completely to switching to improve our metrics. So what were the results from this? Well, literally, and I mean this, 1 month later, when we sat down to go through her numbers, she'd increased her average ticket sale from 956 to 1,654. So that's a significant rise on the average sale per client. The consultation she'd done, so her marketing, as I said, it wasn't a marketing problem. It was a sales issue. You know, she kept doing what she was doing. She actually had one more person come in for a consultation over the previous month. So she had 13 as opposed to 12. So not a significant increase there. That was pretty steady. Significantly low, her close rate went from 66% to 85%. I'll put that in bold because for me, that was a significant win. And it shows that everybody knuckled down, took on board what we went through, and were able to feel a lot more confident in the whole approach. They were a lot more confident in the sales system. So she went from the previous month at 8 new clients, and because of that increase in close rate, she closed 11 of those 13 people that came in, which meant to her bottom line, her new client revenue that month went from 7,859 up to 1,984, which, you know, is huge. And that's, as I say, no additional marketing, nothing touched on that. It was just left to tick along as it was doing. But just that little subtle switch and focus on improving those sales systems meant, you know, a significant increase in revenues.
You mentioned the system there, right, Andrew? And that's what it is. I know when I, just like you, I didn't really have a sales system in place right at the start. And then I worked through a few sales systems and kind of came to one that worked for me in my business. It was because of the repetition that I get better, you know. And you mentioned like the phone call, and she didn't know what to say. If you're trying to do different things all the time, you're never gonna remember, right? It has to be the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? You get so good at it, you get so comfortable with it, and that comes across on the other side. If you come across nervous on a phone call, then the prospect's not gonna have any trust. It has to be like you've done this over and over and over again. Just as like if you were gonna go for heart surgery, if the heart surgeon was a little nervous, do you think you'll go under the knife? Hell no, right? So it's like you want to make sure that this guy is like, okay, I'll do this every day of my life. You're going to be fine, and you've got to really install that trust into that person, and that only comes through practice. And this is the thing. I had a client the other day who's kind of new to sales, and the first thing I said to him was like, look, we need to get like 50 people in front of you just to practice. What's the quickest way we can do that? Don't worry if they say yes or no. That's not the point. The point is we need to hone your skill in. So when it comes to 51, 52, 53, you're almost guaranteed to sell them, you know? So practice makes a difference. If this is a definite sales problem, right? If you're not generating leads or building a list, then you've got a marketing problem, right? If you're building a list, generating leads, and you can't convert them, then it's a sales issue. So have a think what problem you have right now. There's no point spending more money on marketing if you're already getting leads. Okay, you're just wasting your money, right? Focus on sales.
No, absolutely. And you're right. Confidence played a big part. And what I found as well, you know, it's, I was going to say it's slightly easier if you're a one-man band, but you still got to put the time in, but at least it's you. You know where the holes are and you can work on it yourself. This business owner, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this, they'd abdicated responsibility. So they weren't, we had to work on leadership skills and upskilling them as well, which is natural. You know, as you grow your business, you know, there's always going to be something new to learn. And this person had done well in getting the team on board, but then they were just passing everything to their team without properly devoting time to develop and support them. So there was an issue there as well. But the key on it was that we were able to address them, and the proof's in the pudding, which is why I wanted to share these numbers with you, because when it's in black and white, it's a lot easier to understand the importance of knowing and really looking to improve that conversion rate.
It's even more important to have a system in place when you've got a team, right? Because it's almost going to be impossible to manage your team without giving them training on a system. Keep it simple. If you are going to develop your own sales system or use some of the tools that we've got teach you, I would say just keep it as super simple as possible. Simple works, complicated sucks. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, big fan of keeping it simple, guys. Okay, number 2 in the list is increase your average sale per client, which is huge, because now, look, we've covered the point of converting more leads into sales. So now the next step, logically in my eyes, is seeing how much we can increase the amount that each client spends with you. And have a think, we'll refer back to McDonald's here on this slide. You want fries with that. That's the perfect upsell that they've developed into their system. You want to go large, etc. And I know, Nikki, this is one that you love looking at, increasing the sale per client.
I had a huge problem again. I'm not like, I was naturally not good at sales. I didn't enjoy it. I was just a trainer, and that was the mindset that, look, just study, be better at your job, and clients will come, right? I was almost forced into learning how to sell. Now I'm really comfortable with it, but back in the day I wasn't. It was really hard for me. So even upselling stuff was really, really tough. Here's what I found, right? Clients were buying supplements, they were buying fitness gear, they were buying weights and treadmills, and some of them even had their own gyms from someone else anyway, right? And it was a pain in the butt for them because they had no idea where to go, where to look. So they would just go on recommendations, and they would end up in places like Holland and Barrett or Boots for supplements. You know what I mean? They would go to Argos to buy treadmills and stuff, which were terrible. And me as their trainer, I'd be like, why are you doing that, right? Why don't you go here? Why don't you go here? And basically, like, one client come up to me, just, why don't you just get it for me? And the light bulb went off. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm actually doing these guys a favor by actually selling them all this stuff that they're going to buy anyway. You know, I just had to make my margins on top. And I guess that was my issue, was the making the margins, right? I wasn't confident in, I didn't believe I should be doing that, I guess. Yeah. And I know a lot of people have that same mindset, but actually, you know what? I worked on my mindset to get over that. It is a business, but there's so many things that you can actually sell your clients that they're already buying. And I just give you a few examples there of supplements, additional services. A lot of my clients had their own gyms and they wanted me to kit their gym out, you know, and all this stuff adds up, right? It all adds up to additional cash flow for your business.
It does, and I think the mindset issue I had, because I too had one, Nikki, was that you know, I couldn't compete with these bigger businesses with the price that they were charging for the products they had. You know, even though it was a lower quality item. But then I realized what I was giving my clients was, you know, I had that trust, and I was able to recommend products which I knew were worthy of recommendation, things that I would and did take myself, and the price point was put out of the equation because of convenience. It was convenience for me to get it for them. They could just grab it from me the next time they were in the studio, and they didn't have to go off downtown to go to buy these things or buy them or bother having to buy them online. So convenience came into play. So I think that's an important mindset issue to be aware of, that yeah, you may be charging more than what they can get it online, but the convenience side of things plays into your hands.
Yeah, that convenience is worth a lot of money, you know. Definitely. People would pay for it to save time, you know, and a lot of the clients that we work with are very time short, cash rich.
For sure, and look, a number of, you know, I think of calls I've had with people over the years, and they say, "Well, okay, that sounds great, but you know, how do I increase the spend of each client?" And Nikki already mentioned the likes of, I put an image of Purition there, nutritional sales, but also look at, you know, they love, you know, clients love to be part of your tribe, your community. So having branded T-shirts and things goes a long way, that they can buy, or you can give away if you wish. But we're talking about increasing sales here. So having clothing, hats, whatever, water bottles and things that can be branded, that they can purchase from you, you know, so they can proudly display that they're part of your team, of your tribe, goes a long way, you know. Then so long as you've got a small markup, a small margin on that, then you know you're increasing that spend, you know, and they're indoctrinating themselves with your brand more and more. Another thing with you know, Fitbit and those sort of tools are huge now, so maybe having them, or MyZone, or even look at qualifying in nutrition, you know, Precision Nutrition, Pro Coach as a prime example, where if you've got that, or delegating to a team member to upskill them, and then having them run a nutrition program, again, that adds to that bottom line for you and increases that spend per client.
If products are not your thing, then services, you can always increase your service sales to your client, right? So I found selling services a lot easier than selling additional products when I first started, when my sales skills weren't that great and my mindset wasn't great. But today with the internet, right, you can sell an online nutrition course for additional X amount of money, for those clients who've just invested in a boot camp or PT, or some lifestyle coaching. I guess with nutrition, a lot of people include that in the program, but lifestyle coaching, probably not. Do you know what I mean? So there's a way you can maybe add additional revenue per client.
Yeah, for sure. And Nikki touched on it there, but just to expand upon things with a live example, I guess, was that back in the day, there was a number of clients that could only come in once a week or maybe twice a week. And that may have been down to budgetary requirements or restrictions, or it might have been time restrictions. But I knew that for me to help them achieve the goals that they wanted to achieve, they needed to be doing more. They were open to doing it, but for the two restrictions I gave, they were unable to. So what I looked at was, hey, well, let's put together a home-based program, so I tailored a program specific to their needs, and that was added to their ongoing coaching program. So A, it helped them, but B, it increased our bottom line as well. So there's one example, as Nikki said, of service-related pieces over product.
So just stop the video or the webinar, guys, and think about this. I want you to write down, first, how can you improve your conversion rate? Okay, and just write down one or two things, because you're going to need some time to put it together, right? Are you measuring your conversion rate? And if not, how far back can you go towards measuring it? Because that is going to be your barometer. That is going to be the test on whether the system that you've implemented actually improves your conversion rate. Next, do the same thing for increasing average client spend. What can you do to increase average client spend? Write those down, and then we can talk towards the end of the webinar how we're going to implement them, but kind of make it a game, man. That's where numbers come in. If you just play rather than make it so serious, it's a lot easier to get done. And then once you've written them down, just hit start on the webinar again, and we'll move on to the next part.
Perfect. Okay, welcome back. For those of you that paused and did that piece previously, good work on that. Please share as well so that we can assist you on those side of things. But the third strategy on doing this is increasing the frequency of client purchases. Again, Nikki touched on this earlier about mail or email in your client base. I know back in the day, I was fearful of touching base too often with people, even back then when email was relatively new, because I didn't want to be seen to be spamming someone or annoying them. And that was a mindset issue. We should be, not should, we are promoting positive change in our clients. They've shown interest in what we deliver. They see us as the expert, and they're looking for our support and our assistance to help them achieve their particular goals. So they want to be hearing from us. And so often as a business coach, I've heard from clients saying, I don't want to pester somebody too much. What happens if people unsubscribe? Well, my take on that is great. If somebody unsubscribes, brilliant. You're not wasting your time with them anymore. They were never ever gonna buy from you if they hadn't already, or they weren't opening your emails and things. So if someone chooses to unsubscribe, they're not your target audience. Those people that hang around, they may lurk in the background. And as I said, I had that client, ultimately she was a client, but was in the background reading everything for 18 months before she plucked up the courage to be able to reach out and come on board. And she then became a client for just shy of 3 years. And significant revenues generated from that time. building that relationship with her. So don't fear touching base with people. But then it comes around, well, how can I increase the frequency of client purchases? And that's where we can give you some examples on that side to give you some thoughts so you can map down things yourself. So if you got anything you want to kick off on that, Nikki?
Yeah, one of the quickest ways to increase the frequency of client purchases is to try and get them to do more training. It's quite simple. The key is with mindset is not to prejudge about what they can afford. Instead of thinking what they can afford, think about what do they actually need and what do they actually want, right? I'm going to give you an example, right? Most people want to get in shape as quick as possible and look really good. You'd be surprised how many people would find the money to do that in a quicker period of time than over a larger period of time. All we got to do is just give them the answer, right? So I did this with a client. She trained with me for about, believe it or not, 2-3 years at one a week. And she was going on holiday. And I just mentioned to her, look, why don't you come and try it 3 times a week just for 6 weeks before your holiday? And this was on a semi-private 1-to-2 basis, right? Before that, she never mentioned about money or nothing, but we never had that conversation. But she took me up on the offer. She took me up on the offer, and it was brilliant. She got like far better results in them 6 weeks than she did for the entire 3 years, because she was only training once a week, right? She wasn't really doing much on her own. Anyway, she came back from a holiday, and she didn't do the 3 semi-private training, but she didn't do the 3 times a week semi-private when she got back, but she understood the benefits of training 3 times a week. So we just sat down and worked out a package, and it was kind of a hybrid between semi-private and our group. But either way, she was in my studio 3 times a week for a good 4 years after that. And all I did was ask her, right? So my entryway to that client was, I knew she was going on holiday. It was an easy entryway. So you kind of got to know your clients and what they need and what they want, right? And then that is your entryway to asking them, look, do you think it would be beneficial for you to increase the frequency of your workouts? See what they have to say, right? Most of them will say yes. Then it's just about how can you now set up a package for these guys that can fit within their budget and more importantly, fit within their time schedule, right? Because people struggle to find the time to do the workout more than money, right? But that is, for me, is probably the easiest way to increase the frequency of client purchases.
Absolutely, and it reminds me of I've seen clients do this, but I've done it myself as well, where I had again, it was an existing client initially approached me. Embarrassingly enough, I guess I hadn't even contemplated this myself. They'd mentioned they were going away on a skiing holiday, and they were hoping to be ready for it. And they said, "Can we do a ski specific preparation training?" And luckily, thinking fast, yeah, absolutely. So we were able to put together some additional sessions that got them prepared for that. But going forward on that, was then able to develop, a particular package for people that were going on like sporting holidays, in this instance skiing. That then led into going off a topic slightly, into a joint venture with an upmarket travel agent. They were a franchise. What was it? Travel counselors. They were putting together high ticket adventure holidays for their clients, and we were able to partner up so that we could put together a training package to get their clients ready so they could enjoy their holiday to the full. So that came about through increasing or focusing on a particular product, which was an addition to this client's purchase. So in all manner, we increased the frequency of that particular client's purchase. To give some examples, I've got some items here. Top left there, I know a number of guys that I work with in I guess the kettlebell world. They run workshops, so they'll have that as a paid. It could be a half day or a full day workshop. Might even be a 2-day workshop. Their existing clients attend it, but they still pay, so that it's an additional purchase. They may pay a reduced rate for being a preferential client, but it's still additional spend. Another option may be, and I know a number of people ran these sort of things before, where you can bring a friend along into sessions. The bottom right picture there is adding, again, this is for convenience, like meal delivery programs, so that you through your business, that they're able to get their nutrition down pat. And again, that would be a joint venture. Don't think that you've got to go out and work out how to do this yourself. Finding someone you can partner with in that field, and splitting the revenues is the way forward on that. And a simpler way is like vouchers. Adding, putting together a little promotion and giving the voucher to clients to increase spend. I know, over here in the UK, with kids going back to school, it's a great time over the last few weeks to get people back into thinking about themselves and their fitness again. And one way is running challenges. And a lot of the time people think that the challenge is just to bring in new clients, but you can also, increase that spend, that purchase with existing clients, again, giving them a complimentary rate to add on or ups, to ascend in the packages that they have. If you don't ask, you don't get. So there's some examples there for food for thought.
That particularly works well with longer term clients, and I use this just throwing in some challenges and having some gifts, like I had an 8-week skinny jean challenge, and the winner of that won a holiday, and there was a little surcharge for entering that challenge. So again, that's a great way to increase the frequency of client purchases. One other thing I was going to mention was contracts. So a good way to do this is have a rolling contract. So although like I would sell like a 4 or 12-month program, it would just continue on after that until the client gave us 30 days notice. You'd be amazed at how many people went on for years just based on that. And if I didn't have that, I would have to resell them the whole program again. That is a lot more difficult. So have a look at the way you sell your services and think about payment terms. If you were to have an open-ended contract, think about your mobile phone or Sky TV contract or something like that. As soon as your contract's over, you can leave within 30 days. But do you actually leave, right? Probably not, unless you upgrade to a better phone when they lock you into a contract again. So that kind of worked for me. And I kind of stole that idea from mobile phone companies. It works for them and it worked for me.
Yeah, perfect. Again, another example, as we always say, looking outside of our industry and seeing 100%. What works in others, because
100%. Yeah, you've got to look outside the industry. Yeah, definitely. I'm a huge proponent of that.
Brilliant. Well, look, the fourth and final strategy, guys, is raising your prices. And this is last because it generally strikes fear into most small business owners. It certainly did for me when I was told that I should look at raising my prices. In fact, the first person that told me that was one of my key clients. This was back in the day where I used to present an invoice and they'd write a check out for that. And I presented this client had been with me. He was a high profile lawyer, had his own successful business. And as I say, he'd been telling me, when are you raising your rates? I said, I will, but never did because I was scared of losing my clients. But I presented the invoice to him, and he sat at his desk after his workout, and he was writing the check, and he handed the check back to me, and it was for £150 more than what the invoice was. I said, "Oh, you put too much." He goes, "No, this is your new rate. This is the new rate I'll be paying from now on." He goes, "If you're not going to raise your rates, I'm going to raise them for you."
Wouldn't we all love to have clients like that? I'd like to have a lot of them. That'd be brilliant.
Hey, but that was a defining moment, and I think the penny finally dropped. I've probably been smacked around enough to realize, God, I'm shooting myself in the foot. every business raises, well, if we think about it, all utility providers consistently raise their rates, certainly on an annual basis, sometimes more. If you think of your broadband or your telephone, you think about that. The money goes up. Do you stop using that service? No, you just accept it. It's part of the course. But if you think about it, with inflation going up as well, if you don't raise your rates, you're discounting your services. And why should you suffer? You deliver great service to your client base. They love working with you. And if you raise your rates, even if it's £1 or £2 a session, that's not much to them. But over the number of clients you have, that's significant to your bottom line. So my big questions here are, when is the last time you did raise your rates? And if you haven't, why haven't you?
I'm going to say a few things about raising your prices, because when I did it the first time, my packages were all over the place. I had people on like £20 an hour that I started really. It was everyone was on everyone, because I hadn't really organized, and it was just kind of what I call organic growth is going, right? So it was hard, man. It was difficult. It was because I didn't know how to do it, but I learned a lot from that first time I raised my prices, and I just want to share some of them learnings with you guys, so hopefully you don't make the mistakes I made. Right, first of all, if you are desperate for money and you need to raise the price because you're going to go out of business, then you have to do it instant. Okay, that's never nice. Like, you have to literally say within 30 days we're going to raise the prices, otherwise we're going to go out of business. Hopefully you guys are not in that situation. That's the only time I would raise the prices that rapidly, right? For your current clients, especially the ones who've been there forever and they've supported you all the way, right? I would write a letter or an email explaining that the prices will be going up, but I will give plenty of notice. Okay, maybe 3, 6, 9 months, even that. Like, come 2018, we're raising our rates because, and the reason you raise your rates is because you're growing as a business, right? Because when you're on your own, you're keeping all the money, right? Your expenses less. When you hire people, it's about margins. When you have a studio, you've got other bills to pay. You can't maintain the same prices as you grow as a business. And people understand that. And you've just got to relay that to your customers, right? When I moved from my first studio to my second studio, it was really easy to raise my prices because in my email, I said, look, we've upgraded our studio. Everything's going to be great. You're going to have a better experience, but we have to increase our prices because obviously everything's cost more, right? And everyone understood. There was no issues, right? Absolutely zero issues. So you have to raise your prices if you want to grow your business, right? And it's really one of the things that I didn't know when I was building my business is kind of where I'm going, where I was going with this. I only kind of learned that later on in my business maturity. Raise your price, and also I kind of lost my track of thought there, but going back to the clients, the ones that have stayed with you forever, you can offer them a lock-in rate. Say, look, we are going to raise our rates at this time. However, because you've been a client of ours for ages, we respect that and we really want to keep you as a client. We are willing to offer you the current price you're on right now for X amount of months if you would like to pay it in full. After that, you would increase their rate. Or something that I did was you'll always have that rate so long as you don't leave. If you leave and come back, then we have to raise the rates, right? That was great because that kind of had a lot of retention in my business. Now, that was great because I had staff, I had leverage. I knew I was going to get new clients. If you're on your own and you got no capacity to grow beyond yourself, that's a bit more of a trickier strategy to use, right? And this is where the individualization of your own business will come in. And this is when you're talking to your coach, we can kind of nail down what strategy works best for your business.
They're great points, actually, Nicky, and it reminded me of the fact that I did something similar in that, you can grandfathering people in at a rate or having an option where they can keep that rate for additional months. But if they pay in full were good key little bits that I've used in the past as well.
Yeah, I think, I mean, even like with any kind of business I've done since then, that I've always honored that payment structure where it's like, look, if this is the rate you started on, because as you know, Andrew, we raise our rates all the time, right? We raise our prices all the time, but the clients that we have that are on a rate, we kind of honor that rate, right? Until they leave. And if they left and came back, then they would be on the new rate.
Absolutely. I remember as well that I did have someone in the fitness side of things that came back and were looking at for the previous rate they had, but they'd been gone a year and rates were up, and well, they came on board, but yeah, it never ceases to me. You know, everyone's after a deal, aren't they? At the end of the day.
Oh, of course, man, and that's part of the game. You know, that's part of the game. And when we're customers or we're out shopping, we're always trying to do the same thing, right? So it just sucks when someone tries to do it to you, right? But like it is what it is. It's just, and that's the way you got to look at it. You got to just think of it as a game. And if you get good at this game, life's good. You know, so life's really good. So it's worth practicing.
Oh, for sure, and just following on that, I'm looking. In the past, I would have buckled and said, "Yeah, go on then. Look, yeah, you can have that previous rate for being a past client." But you know, when I thought it through, had more confidence. You know, I thought, well, you know, a year's gone by. I've upskilled myself significantly. I've invested in my business. We've got new kit. We've got a new program design system. You know, I've got some real key members of staff who deserve to be paid at, you know, a rate that they deserve. And if I start cutting costs down, cut down what we're getting from clients, then it means I can't afford to pay these guys what they deserve and that. And, you know, I put value on what we'd learned over those 12 months. So thankfully I stuck by my guns, and, you know, they saw that and they were blown away by, you know, the improvements that we'd brought to the table. Not to say that we weren't delivering value previously. It was, we were continuing to grow as a business and, you know, continue to invest in improving and delivering a much better experience because of that. And they were more than happy. So I mention that because just in case some of you out there are encouraged to do similar.
If you want to raise your prices, again, a quick way to do it is keep your prices the same for your current clients, right? And this comes down to your selling ability and sales. If you're selling, let's say, a package at $250 a month and you want to sell at $350 a month, then just start selling at $350 a month to your next client. Start there. So don't raise your, make sure you have the skills to actually sell at the higher rate. You know, that's what you want to practice, because the world don't owe you anything. Do you know what I mean? Just because like you think you're worth that much and you want to raise your prices, it doesn't really matter. It really comes down to selling, and then once they're in your business, the quality of your service. So these are the kind of stuff that you need to work on. But the quality of the service won't make a difference unless you can actually get them in via your selling procedure. And you know what? If selling's a problem, then an easy way to do this is just to give them a 2-week free trial, because then if you're really good at what you do, your service will actually sell the product, right? You've exposed them to actually what you do, and it's that good that they're like, okay, I get it now. And a good way to do that is a 2-week free trial, right? So that would be part of my sales system, if that makes sense, right? If you feel like you can sell at that price, then you've increased your rates. That's great, you know, and then look at increasing the prices with your current clients.
Brilliant. Now, I think some key tips there, guys. So look at each of these. Have a look, block time to look at your business. You know, do you want to increase your revenues? I would suggest the answer is yes. Hopefully those that are on now and those listening again on the recording, that you're all nodding your heads. I certainly am. Nikki, I hope you're nodding your head too. We all want to increase and boost our revenues.
Absolutely.
So the 4 ways in summary in doing that is increase the number of clients you serve, increase their average transaction size, increase the frequency of transactions per client, and then the final one here on the screen, you know, raise your prices. So they're the 4. So have a look at your business, look at where the holes might be in the services you provide and look to plug them. But these are the key areas, the key strategies for any business, be it fitness, be it outside of fitness, that we need to address to make sure that we boost those revenues. Any final thoughts, Nikki?
Yeah, final thoughts is this works in a compound effect. There's 4 ways that we've gone over that you can increase your revenue. If you can increase each one by just say 5%, this has a massive compound effect on your bottom line. And during our private coaching, we do this a lot with all of our clients, fitness-based and non-fitness based. And it's amazing after 3 and 6 months, the difference that comes out the bottom in terms of extra profit into the business. And a lot of times it comes with actually no additional clients. This you can actually increase the revenue of your business and the profit with what you just currently have. And this is kind of like the basics of business 101. So these 4 strategies you're going to be doing constantly throughout your time as an entrepreneur, which hopefully will be forever. So just get practicing. I always mention like play the game, right? So it's just make it a game and practice and play, and you'll get better and better. And ultimately the scorecard is profit at the bottom of the pile. But also then you can help your clients in a different way when you don't have to stress about money. And this is key because as practitioners, as trainers, as coaches, we love what we do. Don't ever forget that, right? Money's important, right? And this is why you're with us for that side of stuff. But just think about how good you could be with your client if you wasn't worried about the bills and money and things like that. It's a game changer, So they're my final thoughts for today's webinar, Andrew.
No, brilliant. Look, guys, any questions, as always, you can get us at Andrew or Nikki at lifestyle180.co.uk. Put your questions in the private Facebook group. You can search us out at Lifestyle 180 Coach via the social media platforms, and let us know. Let us know what you're doing. Let us know which of these you've highlighted is the major issue, and shout if and when you need help. We're here to support.
All right. See you guys next week.
Yeah, I look forward to it, guys. Thanks for your time today. And yeah, we'll see you same time next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Now.